Welcome back to Just Another Solar Podcast with Luke Beattie. That's me, Jess McPherson. How are you doing?
Hey, mate. Yeah, just sweating it out here in Adelaide, and batteries flying off the shelves. The same old story.
Awesome. And industry legend Nigel Morris, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Luke. Nice to see everyone. Good to be back after the long weekend. No, it's a great way to start the year. Don't Australians have us nailed? Have Christmas holidays, then go back to work for a bit, but then have another holiday. It's nice. Ease you into the year.
Well, I love the short weeks because you have to fit 5 days worth of work into 4 days, but that's okay. That's what we do. That's what we do. Carl Jensen's not here. He's not in Australia. He's currently on holidays. I spoke to him a couple of hours ago. He's in Rajasthan in India. So he's gallivanted around there, had some interesting commentary, and he also sent me some WhatsApp pictures. He's been taking some interesting ones with babies around India. So he's in front of the Taj Mahal holding someone's baby and elsewhere. So
the
pretty
Carl
interesting.
Jensen presidential campaign trail.
It looks very, very, very much like a politician. And
The PR shots.
Yeah. And it's almost in line with our friends at the My Efficient Electric homepage on Facebook, which we all frequent and participate in. And of course, Tim Forsey is an absolute force for good, friend of the show who's been on an episode before. And that's such a good reference tool for all things electrification, getting off gas. So shout out to you, Tim. It's an excellent page you built. However, he had some critical things to say about our podcast. Carl posted the 100th episode, said, tried to listen to it too hard. 3 people max on a podcast is a good rule, I reckon. 2, even better, the interviewer and the interviewee. Podcast should be about informing a busy audience, not about a whole squad of presenters having a good old yak. How's your motorbike? How's your spa? He didn't mention massage chairs. What did you get up to on the weekend? Yeah. That's my constructive feedback. And to be fair, like there's a bit of chatter there, and there's probably some room for us to work with the how we're doing it and the format. So we'll probably have a bit of a play around with that, to be fair. But Matt Wilkins' suggestion, Tim Forsey agree with this. I would remove Nigel and Carl, Luke and Jess, dynamic duo. Jess, we're the dynamic duo.
Wow. Who was
Thanks,
that?
Matt.
They're off
Matt
my...
Wilkins.
Oh, Matt. Oh.
Anyway.
Matt Wilkins will be receiving a call after this recording from Nigel Morris.
He also suggested that we can have a lead host each week and sub in and do that sort of thing. But we might have a play around with the format for interviews or something else. Watch this space. We respect
Feedback's
him
good.
a lot, and
Feedback's
we appreciate
great.
the feedback.
Yeah.
So there is some good in there, but it's also my other dynamic duo partner. So in 10 seconds, Nigel, you'll be dropping off the podcast.
But you know, on the flip side, the conversational nature, it doesn't work for everyone, right? But the conversational nature of this show is where you guys started it. It's how it evolved. It is like having a chat with some friends on a Friday afternoon over a beer about how your week was. That was the whole mantra. It's it's kind of what started this whole thing. And it's actually what lots of people tell me that they like, because they're listening on the roof or in the truck or whatever else. And they say, it's conversational. I'm not being talked at. I'm listening to a conversation with some people who I consider peers in the industry. So, the feedback's always valuable, though.
It started during COVID, and that was the whole premise. It's like a conversation industry people would have at the pub. Now, of course, during COVID, that wasn't always possible, so we did it over Zoom. That's interesting. Good feedback and some astounding figures from AEMO, who's called it a landmark moment, with wholesale pricing has fallen sharply, as we've seen. Well, one of the massive figures we saw is that wind and solar made up 91.1% of WA's generation in a peak event in December, and renewables met 51% of quarterly energy demand on the NEM. So that's the last 3 months of last year, renewables was 51%. So we're now in a majority of generation.
It's pretty incredible.
It's totally incredible. In fact, one of the biggest skeptics I know, who shall remain unnamed, I very promptly sent a link to that article to them and went, you know what, here's some facts. This is energy market facts. Yeah, a lot of what you read, a lot of what you hear is actually not fact-based, but here's some really good energy market facts that demonstrate that, not only are we growing, but we're off and running and we're actually the majority now. And this is backed up by two other really good posts from Renew Economy that they put out. One which really got my goat was about the amount of curtailment in the last quarter of 2025. 59% in one state of wind and solar generation was curtailed. So, despite these records, there's still massive amounts of curtailment at the large scale level, let alone all the export limited systems that are in place from years gone by. And then just to round this out, the other article that really, took me down a rabbit warren this morning to start my day by David Osmond, he'd done some studies on whether 100% renewables was possible and what it would take and all that kind of stuff 4 years ago. And he's now gone back and revisited them all and said, what does it mean? What does it mean? Were we right? Were we wrong? And it's literally thousands and thousands of words. But the short version of the exec summary, I guess, is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. How much backup would be needed? The answer to that question was about 10 gigawatt. 1 gigawatt. 1 gigawatt. That's the only backup that's needed once we get to it. He made some really balanced points, actually, also about the fact that once we go past a certain amount of renewable penetration, the economics go off a cliff, right? And so there is a sweet spot for renewable penetration in the grid. The numbers that he came up with were that it'll take 45 gigawatts of wind, 18 gigawatts of utility PV, 40 gigawatts of rooftop PV, all with rational capacity factors and whatnot. So there's some fantastic modelling out there now to show that we're not only are we smashing records, not only are we ahead of the trajectory, but we can get to 100% no problems.
Well, I had a customer text me actually just this morning showing me a screenshot of their Amber app and showing that they made $260 in a day, which is pretty good, I think. That's pretty good. That's not too shabby.
That's not too shabby at all.
I mean, we have pretty volatile grid pricing here in SA, but it shows that for people who want to keep a finger on the pulse, there's a lot of really good opportunity there. And not just Amber, there's lots of options out there, but that's a very happy customer.
And when the battery scheme first came out, we were talking about measuring batteries in terms of MCGs.
Yes.
Now,
MCGs
but as we found out last episode, we're on track to do the capacity of snowy hydro within the first 12 months of the scheme. So maybe we need to measure and say to not have that level of curtailment, how many snowy hydros do we require?
Nice.
If we have one per year, it's astounding. It's actually a really good investment versus a snowy hydro. Not saying that that's a bad thing. I think we need heaps more storage and lots of different types. But yeah, the cheap owned batteries program is phenomenal at the current run rate.
And May 1st is looming. I know that a lot of good competitors of ours are actually starting to send us people because they don't have installation capacity before May 1st. And hats off to them for not, for just trying to make sure their customers get the best outcome. I think that's actually pretty top tier.
That is top tier. Have you got capacity that you can squeeze them in, Jess?
Not a lot.
No.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay,
Are
great.
they signing this week or next week? Like, that's the real...
Yeah.
No, not quite that bad, but we're getting pretty close. And I know a lot of good operators were booked up to May 1st, at the point of that announcement. So,
but the market will adapt to the new thresholds.
Yeah.
We saw this, we saw this when multipliers changed back in the day, when the multiplier was halving or something similar, and the industry said, we're going to collapse. And there was a, momentary drop, and then it just levelized again and kept going. So it is disruptive, and we hope that you guys can work through and get all of your installs in for your customers by then. But another thing, 1st of May, there's a whole bunch of new requirements for WA. So I have some more information in coming episodes about that. But
things are changing. Yeah. This topic came up. What's going to happen after May 1st on a webinar this afternoon? I was on helping Sunwiz. Sunwiz have got their annual awards thing coming up. Shout out to Warwick and the great work he does. And we were talking about the fact that, you know, awards mechanisms and recognition and process and systems and all those kinds of things are a way to differentiate yourself and to survive post May 1 when we go through the inevitable, as he called it, the valley of death after a rebate ends. And there's no doubt at all that, you know, we're going to pull some of the market forward because the rebates are fatter. And but I'm more bullish. I you know, we saw a peak of 12,000 a week in December of batteries being installed. Bunch of people I've been talking to are thinking it's going to settle down around 10,000, maybe a bit lower after May 1. You know, we'll go through that little valley because we pulled the market forward. But then everyone I'm talking to is thinking, yeah, no, we'll get back. We'll come back.
But 10,000 is still a massive number, Nige.
10,000 a week. Jess is just shitting her pants, going, I keep
I'm
doing
ready.
this.
I've been warming up. No,
She's practiced now.
I think you make a really good point, because really, like, the quantity of batteries probably won't adjust that dramatically. It's going to be the size of the batteries.
They'll be smaller. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Which, you know, we all know, and like probably should.
Probably should. That's right.
So, Jess, moving on, there was some pretty sad news in the last week in South Australia. So 1,5, there was an incident at their warehouse, or there was a massive fire at their warehouse. Do you have more info about that?
Yeah, well, it was a very visible event, and yeah, there's that old adage about all press is good press, but all of the like news footage was the 1,5 logo burning up. Like, it was not the most amazing picture for those guys. And, you know, like, talking about good operators, you know, like, it's really sad to see that happen to anyone. I definitely want to give a good shout out to, there were a lot of SA operators who were reaching out and making sure, like, if there was anything they could do to help out. And I think that's pretty incredible.
Oh, that's great.
And just a bit of a, I guess, sort of on the flip side, I think it was a bit sad to see some people having a bit of glee at somebody else's misfortune. And I think it says a lot more about those people than anything else. So a bit of a shame to see. But I think on the whole, most people were just, you know, making sure everyone was okay, which is pretty amazing. And I think, Nige, you've got a bit of an inside scoop on the actual source of this. Is that right?
Well, yeah, I did hear some more facts around this one today. So in good news, apparently the fire actually didn't encroach into their warehouse facility. So none of their stock, the vast majority of their stock was completely undamaged and unharmed by all accounts. Obviously, they'll have some work to do with smoke and water damage and various other bits and pieces, but it actually didn't impinge on them too much. As you said, Jess, not only it's great to hear the community getting in around them, but also I know their staff really dug in deep and did everything they could to keep the wheels in motion, and they were back up and trading.
Moved installs, 100%.
Yeah, they absolutely, I mean, must have been monumental, but they absolutely got cracking, and it's kind of almost BAU for them, which is amazing. A couple of good lessons that came out of it for them, and
Don't
a number
live
of other.
next to a curry shop? Is that the takeaway?
The curry shop next door is gone.
I'd actually love to live next door to a curry shop.
We've got Barmeen down the road from us. That's pretty good.
You get a curry and you get a photo with the baby at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, no. Apparently, the curry shop next door was burnt to the ground. There's nothing left. So if you're in that area, you got to go somewhere else for your curry.
Do they know where the fire originated, Nige?
No, the investigation is still ongoing, and that was a point that he raised. He said no one has actually yet been able to work out how it started. So it didn't
because
start...
there was a lot of speculation where people were saying, "Oh, they install these batteries, those batteries. See what happens when you touch that solution."
No,
and you're like, "Pull your head in. Wait till the investigation happens." And probably even then, you don't sink the boot in. I mean, we saw a distributor in New Zealand, one of SIG Energy's distributors, and among other products, I think Power Plus and others, and they had a fire. Probably a good time. I'm not saying batteries caused it, and hopefully they didn't, and it didn't get into their warehouse, but a good time to say, if you've got a warehouse full of LFP batteries, you've got a hazard on site. So, yeah, it's a good thing to manage.
And top tip out of that webinar actually around that very issue, check your insurances, right? Make sure we go through those annual fire risk assessment insurance processes. There was a lot of people talking about, wow, yeah, that was a real eye-opener for me. And B, a lot of people were talking about the fact that often your insurance policy will allow you, if you do declare that you've got dangerous goods, batteries, et cetera, there'll be a capacity limit.
Yep.
Right. And so there were stories about wholesalers saying, yeah, okay, I get it, but I can't actually physically put any more batteries into my facility or avoid my warranty. So manufacturer, you're going to have to hold on to those temporarily until I release some more. So, you know, take this seriously, because in the worst case scenario, like 1,5 experienced, you know, you can be in a world of pain if your insurance is void or you've breached your regs or something, right?
So here's a reminder for those who are holding lots of batteries: do an audit, check your insurance, and thank Nige. We've got to move on. Hey, mate.
Get in the comments and thank Nige.
It's good to see you flying high at the
It's
Smart
my
Energy
last
Council, mate.
episode, after all.
Oh, you're still here.
Thanks, Matty.
You're meant to drop out.
haven't dropped
You're
me
meant
out
to
yet.
disappear. Yeah. Okay. Okay, give me a sec. And one last quick one, because we have an excellent guest today, is there's been a lot of chatter online on Cutters around Bunnings. So there was mass SMS campaign that went out. So they seem to be playing in both the wholesale and the retail space. So the tradies and those who register with Bunnings got a text message, and it directed them to wholesale batteries and inverters. For me and mine, it looks a lot like Zeva in terms of the hardware. It's got a different name on it. And then, of course, in the retail space, they're partnered with Tempo, who also is partnered with Audi. Thoughts?
Shout out to Rami from Juice for saying, I think his comment on Cutters or one of those pages was like, the irony of naming your solar panel Midnight Pro or whatever, like whatever they've called it, like just zero connection.
They've finally got those panels that work at night, obviously.
Yeah, totally.
Lead in the pack. Wow.
And I think Pat coined, again, I'm basically just recounting comments, but I think Pat Southwell, a good friend of the podcast, posted something along the lines of snag fueled renewable energy as an acronym to add to the pile, which I think is pretty bloody brilliant.
Can I give a quick shout out before we jump to the guest? Just because I think this is a really nice one. There was a post on Cutters early in the week from Ben Castle I'm going to name Ben Castle out of Hobart. I just really think it was very human of Ben to just reach out and say, look, I've run a business for years. I've built it up, you know, family, kids, you know, sole proprietor, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to scale it, but it's hard. I'm interested in talking to other people who are out there in the industry about how you've navigated this and how you've survived this, and, you know, whether there's a discussion about mergers that should be on so that we can all succeed. And the quality of the responses was just really heartwarming. There was a bunch of people who straight away stuck their hand up and said, Ben, we're in Tassie as well. Happy to have a beer or a cup of coffee anytime and no charge. Happy to share any of the lessons we've learned. And there was just this wash of people saying, hey, mate, thanks for putting yourself out there like that. We're happy to chat to you and help if we can. So, you know, it just goes to show, right? It just goes to show that the haters will always be haters, but there are good people in the world as well. And sometimes putting your neck on the block out there like that can elicit some really positive outcomes. And I'm sure Ben's now got a little network of people that he can have a yak with, have a chat with. I know, Jess, your boss is a master at this. He's got his little network where, you know, he can pick up the phone and he can lean on someone and go, oh, you know, it's been a tough week. How's it been for you? Blah, blah, blah.
I think it's an espresso martini themed group chat or something like that.
I was going to say, Eddie's on a beach somewhere in Fiji with a cocktail in his hand.
Undoubtedly.
Correct. We'll see him in like 3 weeks or whatever, you know?
Yeah, but I just wanted to give a big shout out to Ben. And Ben, you know, we're fans of yours. for reaching out like that, and jump on Solar Cutters for everyone else out there and see if you can give them a hand.
And speaking of support, we'd like to thank our sponsors, GoodWe, again, and of course their ESA solution. I can't do it because the AI camera starts zooming in and out. When I do that, those who are just listening, we're doing the GoodWe W. So yeah, really appreciate their support. I spoke to an installer over here in WA who I won't name because I didn't ask permission. And I said, have you done the ESA yet? He said, yep, excellent. Said the the ones that they've done have been great. He said the platform's really good too. So that's a real world.
They relaunched their app, but they were talking about that when we were over in China with them. So there's a whole new version, which is apparently awesome.
He said the new version of the app is excellent.
Yeah, and, that's great to hear.
So better throw to an ad.
G'day, it's Alex Carey here. The new GoodWe ESA home battery is here and it's a game changer with leading performance and safety features. The GoodWe ESA series is available now. Visit goodwe.com.au for more information.
All right, guys, we better move along. So we're going to bring our guest in, who's also from SA, Jess. We've got Merrily Hunter from Mack Trade Services. The only time I've really interacted with Merrily or seen it was at the Smart Energy Adelaide event, and you're on a panel with our esteemed co-host, Jess. So we were there supporting. That was great. Shorter than expected, but great. And so Merrily is from Mack Trade Services. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
So for those who don't know Mack Trade Services, what role do you play in the solar supply chain?
We're typically classified as an energy services company. So we're the boots on the ground for AGL, Origin, Zen Energy. We work under the energy efficiency schemes. We've been around since 2014. We've become a rebate facilitator and a compliance company for roughly 1,200 tradies all up the East Coast. So we work in South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, and with all things electrification. One of our more recent activities has been virtual power plant connections. So a lot of the solar and battery dealers that are working through our team now are using our services to claim VPP incentives for their customers. So when they're connecting a battery, they'll put a VPP rebate on there if they're in South Australia or in New South Wales, and they'll see the Mack Trade Services name there as a key facilitator for that. And we do that on behalf of the energy retailers. We work with Amber and AGL and Energy Australia and a whole raft of other ones providing those services.
So South Australia and New South Wales, you facilitate the VPP schemes. So you must have access to some really interesting data regarding VPPs, because we're hearing all sorts of stuff.
It's actually been really interesting in this space because we were the first to build a virtual power plant self-service portal for a lot of mum and dads to BYO batteries, really. So they'd already had their batteries installed since 2003. 2023 is when it started in South Australia. 2024 is when the program started in New South Wales. And 2025 is when it got a real kicker. So the data we've collected across the states has been really interesting to see what are the VPPs that mum and dads are doing their own research on or being encouraged to connect with by their battery and solar installers. What are the battery sizes that are going in? What's the demographic that are starting to pick up the VPP train? And what are some of the stats on attachment rates that we're seeing across states? So, for example, in South Australia and New South Wales, where they have these incentive programs, and when we're talking incentives, we're not talking chump change here. In New South Wales, it's up to $1,000 for a 28 kilowatt, and in South Australia, it's up to $2,000 just for connecting to an eligible VPP. So those kind of subsidies, it's enough to get the early adopters or fence sitters to give it a go. There's no lock-in mechanism, so they don't have to stay on a VPP for a fixed period of time or pay back the incentive if they decide it's just not for them. So it's a great way to get people to trial it. And we've seen double the attachment rates of batteries to VPPs in states where they have those incentives versus states without it. I think Victoria was sitting at something like 3% attachment rates, whereas the other states we're looking at 8 and 9% when they have incentives in place. It's still tiny, a fraction of where we need to get to.
As a footnote in WA, to participate in the state's battery scheme, you need to be in the VPP as well. So that's around $1,200, but it's a little bit more convoluted. Doesn't seem to be, I mean, I don't think you guys have been involved in it. So I'm not going to put the SOS
Good
out
call.
there, but
Good call, Merrily.
the outcome in WA is that when you overlay the uptake of the state scheme concurrently with the national scheme, is the numbers are actually much lower than expected, and it's probably that additional thing. And there's some other complications in terms of getting jobs approved and paid and so forth, but just a footnote there. But please continue on some VPP data for us. Oh, sorry, Jess, I rudely cut you off. Jess.
I'll forgive you just this once. Next time, though, no. I will say that I think it's very hard to sell the idea of a VPP to a client, especially in states where there are dynamic or flexible exports requirements, because these people are just full sponges and then you're adding an extra layer. And so I think when you can just say, give this a go, see how you feel about it. If you like it, great, excellent. There's a great program for you to jump along with. And if you don't, no worries at all. And, especially for us, like we use Mack Trade Services for all of our reps referrals. And, to be able to say, and if there's an issue, they'll just email you and they're the most lovely people in the world. They'll make sure you get through. Like I've always had amazing customer service from your team, Merrily. So thank you so much.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Well, all of our team, our customer service team and all of our data processing team, they're based here in Adelaide, and we've got a team in Melbourne and another team over in New South Wales, depending on which scheme you're working in. So the great thing about the people that you're referring for reps, they're talking to customer service people right here in Rose Park, around the corner to them. So I think that's another great local experience that they've got. They're supporting another local business on accessing their own program. That effectively the reps program and these incentive programs, it's people getting their own money back. I think that's what the surprising thing is for people who are learning about these programs for the first time, all through the NEM. So the National Electricity Market, except for Queensland, have energy saving initiatives in place, and they've been in place since 2009. And there's a levy that's collected on your bill just the same way that RET is. It's bundled in under market charges. Here in South Australia, it's about $3 or $4 on every quarterly bill that you're chipping into it. But you've been paying that levy since 2009. And so when you go through and do your first REPS claim, that's you getting your own money back. Effectively, REPS becomes bulk billing providers as a way to view it, that you pay the gap and then the rest of the cost of that asset is billed back through companies like us to AGL or Origin or wherever you've been paying your levy. And it becomes a great way, a facilitator for people to afford upgrading things like energy efficient air conditioners and hot water systems when you would otherwise be in hardship and having to afford the lowest or most inefficient versions of it. Having schemes like this allow you to step that up and be able to access really efficient technology without the big budget or big price tag to go with it. So if you haven't heard of the energy efficiency schemes operating in your states, I recommend you actually look it up, because you've got your own money sitting there. And the next time you go to upgrade an asset in your house or connect a battery to a VPP, really encourage people to go and claim their own subsidy and claim some of their cash back.
This is music to my ears because, my solar and batteries just went in recently. I finally got off my backside last week and rang my retailer and went, oh, by the way. And they went, oh, yeah. And luckily I got onto a fantastic call center person who just had every answer for it. She was amazing. Shout out to Jemime. She was just amazing. But I'm interested in playing now in the VPP market. Well, actually, it was Jemima who said, actually, VPPs, they're a bit complicated, and we've got this other tariff that's just really simple, that's just designed for battery owners, and it's called, I forget it was called Super Simple Battery or whatever. And it was, so they've kind of restructured it to make it look like a standard tariff and feel and smell like a standard tariff. couple of incentives attached, a nice export rate for me, which kind of pricked my ears up, uncapped, which was nice. And I went, oh, that sounds really good. Jumped in. Unfortunately, my technology's not eligible. So I got to shop around for another VPP provider, and then actually rang.
You're going to hit up Power Plus and tell them to get some integrations going.
Well, trust me, Jess, I hit up Power Plus every second day with a suggestion. They were really sick to death of me. Thanks, Simon. I know
So
you're patient.
that's a problem with retailers, Jess. You think that integration is just to flick a switch, and you're like, why haven't they done it yet?
Nah, I know better. I've been riding Franklin to get on the reps rebate since the day we met them, and we have succeeded. They are now on Origin. So once we have the reps rates for this year, I will be able to send everyone, including my dear mum, who did the testing for them, and get their reps back.
Cool. But it is really, and I'm interested in your view here, Merrily, because, you know, putting aside people who get it and who are in this market like us, you know, the take-up rates are so low. I'm interested. Have you got a view? What is it just that it's marketed wrong, or it's explained wrong, or it's too complicated, or there's not enough value? Have you got a view on why we aren't seeing much higher take-up rates?
Yeah, I think that I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's a combination of factors. Not all VPPs are created the same. There are some that are a little bit more gamified and trade on the wholesale market, and those that are quite techy and want to be involved and hands-on in their energy behavior are really attracted to that. Things like Amber. I think Glowbird has a similar model as well. And then you have the traditional retailers that offer a VPP product that's a little bit more of that set and forget. And that's when you don't have control over your discharge, but nor do you need to monitor it. You don't have to get in to switch things on or off at certain times to maximize the value of it. Those discharge and exports are already determined for you. So it really depends on who you are as an individual and what VPP suits you and your behavior type. And that's why I think the whole research side of this tends to be a barrier for people to say, oh, I'm not quite sure. There's so much information out there, and I've only just gotten my head around how a battery works and how a solar system works. The people who are connecting to VPPs, what we tend to find are people who are quite annoyed about the fact that they've just lost their feed-in tariff and they're using a lot of credits for it. And then once they understand the concept of a VPP, that really you're just storing that solar and then exporting it a few hours later rather than at the time that you're actually generating, and you can get back 25 cents a kilowatt hour on that. They're the people that are saying, I'm going to give that a go and I'm going to size up my batteries to maximize that VPP.
So it's an early adopter market right now, isn't it?
At the moment it is, but it's also fairly lucrative right now. And I can't see, looking down the barrel of just how much storage is coming online, that the cash is going to be in it in the long term. I think you'll start to see a softening of that peak price in 4 or 5 years' time, and it's not going to be as lucrative to be part of a VPP. It'll be a little bit more like what WA is experiencing at the moment, where you're joining a VPP to help the grid during those periods, but you're not doing it because it gives you bank. It's not putting a whole lot of cash back into your pocket for it, but it's doing something. You're getting a better feed-in tariff than none. So I think that the biggest barrier has to do with the different products that are out there, but also you've just forked out a huge amount of cash for probably the third biggest asset you have. You've got your home, your car, and then you've got a battery. That's a huge outlay. Not a lot of people are willing to give up access to their battery at times that aren't determined by them, which is why some of these wholesale VPP products are attracting so many people, because you do have the ability to switch off exports to act as if you're not connected to a VPP if and when you choose to. So they have been quite an attractive proposition for people who are saying, I've just walked out of this cash for a battery in order to have independence. Yes, I want all the benefits of a VPP, but I don't want you taking energy at the time.
I want my cake and to eat it too, right?
Yeah.
I think you make such an interesting point around like what people think they're getting out of a VPP, because to that end, Like, we're aware, because we're steeped in this shit every day, the invisible savings, right? Like, how many people call you up their first quarter after their electricity bill and say, hold on a second, I only saved $15, and you're going, mate, that's your feed-in tariff, you saved heaps more than that, and you're doing that conversation. And these VPPs quite often offer a lot of invisible savings, lower rates, no daily supply charges, free hours of power to charge out, whatever pick your flavor. And that's not going to show up anywhere. There's no way to track that unless you're, really into your Excel spreadsheets. And absolute respect for those people out there. I love those people. But I think most people have no way of tracking that. It's impossible, really.
Did you just throw shade on people who like Excel?
No. I mean genuinely
Excel?
with my whole heart, because I'm one of those Excel data nerds.
Okay. But it's an interesting point. It's an interesting point because what I can hear both from your comments, Merrily, and yours, Jess, is that part of the problem is communicating it simply to customers. And that's really a barrier. It's a barrier from it being early adopters, Nigel, as you were saying, into the mainstream, is that it's actually very complex, and how we communicate it to a consumer is probably critical to be able to get adoption. Is that right, Merrily?
Yeah, definitely. And it's something that we've been working on here. Actually, Jess knows that we realised that we've got this whole portal set up for mums and dads to come in after they've joined a VPP. But we have a whole cohort of trades that are saying, how do I get involved? How can I actually introduce it to a customer when I'm there? And ultimately, our tradespeople are the key influencers of asset purchases. They're the ones on the ground. They've already built the trust and rapport with the customer by selling the solar and battery system, being in their home. They understood or understand how that customer wants to use it and would know how to have a conversation with them about whether a VPP is appropriate. So we just kicked off the VPP marketplace, which is designed as a national product to help tradies actually get involved in that conversation and claim the subsidy on behalf of the customer and add it to their quotes. And we're rolling it out. We're just doing pilot phases now in New South Wales, but we'll be bringing that to WA as well. What we realise is there are a lot of trades out there that are doing solar and batteries, and they've got kickback contracts with individual retailers, but it might not be the retailer that the customer wants to go with.
And then you have to work about tracking that and making sure you're getting your referral bonuses and
So what Marketplace does is it allows tradies to have access to all of the retail products eligible for that battery type, and they get kickbacks regardless of who they're actually connecting that customer to. They don't have to maintain contracts, but nor do the retailers have to maintain 100 contracts with 100 different tradies. It's all just a flat rate depending on which VPP they sign that customer up to. So watch this space, because we're making it as a free offer, a free product for everybody, and we're connecting a whole lot of platforms to it so you can add it in as a quote product that's just naturally available for tradies that are out there doing batteries, and can then have that VPP conversation with customers, because there's a little video saying here's how you can explain what it is and how it all works to people. So hopefully we're doing our little bit to overcome some of that education barrier and the communications barrier out there, and maybe we'll see an increase in those attachment rates over time.
Now, you mentioned the states that have schemes such as the PDRS in New South Wales, VEU in Victoria, and REPS in South Australia. And there was I can't remember what the controversy was a few weeks ago even about the REP scheme, or there was some unclear stuff around pricing. Is that still ongoing? Do you have some more information around that?
Oh, this is a can of worms. Okay.
Oh,
yes,
go on then, Merrily. You said that you're a self-confessed energy nerd. So come on.
We're going to rename this podcast "What Grinds My Gears." Okay. Okay, strap in, because this is a wild ride. So REPS has been, the REIS was called REIS, now called REPS, has been running since 2009. In 2021, they revamped the scheme and brought in a whole bunch of DR-based activities, demand response-based activities, and a lot of electrification-based activities, which are fantastic. One of those were VPP connections. So when you connect your battery, depending on the capacity of that or the usable capacity of that battery, you're able to get an incentive paid to you under the REPS program. The way that it works is energy retailers have an energy saving target that they need to achieve every year, and they get told what that target is before the next calendar year commences. This year, we have been waiting for those targets to be released. Now, I'll note for any viewer or listener that it is now the 30th of January, 2026, and no retailer has their 2026 targets. So nobody knows how many certificates they actually need to generate this year. We're already a month into the year. It doesn't look like they're actually going to get those targets until March, which means they lose an entire quarter of the year's operating capacity. So in the meantime, everyone's at a standstill. There's no activities happening.
So they can't even budget, they can't price it, they can't budget for the year until they have those targets. Is that right? Because that's a liability for the retailers, right? That's a
100%. And then you've got a PVE, which is a price variation event that will then need to make up lost ground. So for the energy
explain
retailers,
that for the layman.
Yeah, I've got no idea what that one is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Explain it.
Energy retailers typically do something called a price variation event, or a PVE, in January or in June, July of each year. That's when you'll normally get a letter coming through saying energy levy's going up. And it will basically encompass all of the pass-through costs that they've had, they can compliantly pass on. So if they're looking at the year and they're saying, we've got the REP scheme, there's 1 million certificates we need to achieve, the market value of these certificates are $20 each, therefore we need to recoup this from our customer base and then work out what levy is going to be passed on through all customers. So PVEs occur not just in state schemes like these, they occur in all markets for gas, for electricity, and it just depends on your energy retailer. So if you're worried about when you're going to get a letter of your energy bill going up, those are the two timeframes each year that you'll typically expect to get those letters through. And what that means is that retailers don't actually know how much money to collect on everybody's energy bill this year because they made a dramatic change to the scheme on Christmas Eve. It was a lovely Christmas miracle for us all. Gave us 3 business days to transition. We had all of our trades booked for 3 months worth of work that then we gave calls.
Well, and business days is a bit generous, isn't it?
3 business days because it's the middle of Christmas, New Year period. And so we had to cancel all work for 3 months for the tradies while we sat and waited what the new schemes were going to be. So doing it tough at the moment in South Australia, waiting for them to release it. And of course, we've got an election coming up in 2 months' time. So caretaker mode kicks in 3
Who does
weeks.
that sit with? Which department does that sit with?
That is the Department of Energy and Mines. We've just gone through a heat wave here, so we've had hundreds of phone calls from customers calling up saying, can I get an air conditioner? What's the REPS program? And we're saying, sorry, we know nothing. We need to just sit here and wait until we get information. So unfortunately, if you want to join a VPP, there are no VPPs that have actually been re-stamped at this time and are registered to claim REPS. We don't know if it is retrospective as well. So if you've actually joined a VPP in January, you might not be eligible to claim your subsidy when they do get re-stamped. We don't have this information yet. So
Hopefully you can just leave and rejoin or something. Worst case for the, the no lock-in ones.
That's not the intention of the program. You're not supposed to
muck around, right?
Again, but it unfortunately has had roll-on effects to every sector under the REPS program, to even supermarkets that had work chimed in, they've all had to cancel it.
And they closed up October last year. So there'd be a cohort of people from November, December installations who are maybe itching to join their VPP, and they're holding out at the advice of Mack and their retailer and all that jazz. And it's also had a massive impact on Energy Masters, right? Which is like such an amazing pioneering program. And that's been stopped in its tracks by this as well.
Well, yes and no, actually. Sapin stepped in on that one, and they were saying, we don't want work to hold up, so they're going to continue the flow on of this. So that's been quite good. Energy Masters has continued to roll on, and that's kept a lot of the tradies busy, which has been fantastic. We're really appreciative for Sapin to continue that important body of work.
I must have missed an email. I'm on Energy Masters. I've got to get I only got in on the last intake. I've got to get my smart meter put in. I'm very excited.
Oh, that's going to be fun. I tell you what, those HEMS devices, they're a doozy.
Can't wait.
They're a doozy.
Let me at it.
So what do you see as some of the biggest challenges this year, Merrily, in terms of the spaces you operate in?
Look, it's never a dull moment in our space. I don't think that any of the one states has been a smooth ride over the last few years. Our biggest barriers that we're looking at this year, particularly in South Australia, this reps delay, policy change, disruption to the industry will mean once everything is finally sorted out, we then have only 2/3 of the year to actually deliver on targets that typically take an entire year to deliver. So we will need to sprint to the finish line. There's also the disruption of Chinese New Year and supply chain impacts there to try and bring stock in within an appropriate time frame to go and get installed. And we're just like every other industry in that skilled workers are really hard to keep and pay competitively when there's so much demand for their time everywhere else. So that's a big challenge for us, making sure that South Australia can continue to hum, we can continue to deliver on our commitments. One of the things we're really excited about is the launch of the VPP marketplace and what that will look like nationally and what the results of that will be. So we've been doing a lot of work in AI and automation to make that as smooth as possible and as efficient as possible. And that's one of the big launches we've got coming up over the next couple of months. They're the two big ones. I'm also in the middle of moving interstate, and that's all happening in the next 72 hours. So if you could see the black bags on my eyes, it's no rest for the wicked. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a big year in electrification in general. We're going to be able to get a full set of data over what the impact of the cheaper home battery scheme has done, not only with grid storage, but also in residential uptake as well, tipping into this over 50% mark of renewable energy on the grid is just fantastic. So starting to see a lot more positivity in media stories. Maybe that's the optimist in me talking.
No, I agree. There has been a bit of a pleasant change in.
Well, you don't watch Sky News, obviously, Jess.
No, I don't. I just get it on my Facebook and Instagram reels, and I go, "Oh, that's nice."
I was looking up your background before the show, Merrily, and I want to ask, in your previous life, particularly there was one role where you were somewhere for 8 and a bit years, deep in the energy market. Yeah, at AGL. Yeah. Did you ever imagine we would be here? Could you imagine that we would be where we are today, or where we'll be at the end of the year?
You know what? Yes, I did back in 2006 and 2007. I was really excited. There was a big groundswell of positivity around renewable energy. For those of you that were around that time then, it was when solar credits came in and the LGC STC split. It was the boom period during that window, and there was a lot of positive messages in the media. And then we went through a decade of pushing shit uphill. We just could not get anything passed. We couldn't get traction. The private industry was doing it anyway without any support of state and federal government. And it was very difficult for a long time to try and get the backing for household and commercial projects. So it's been a very welcome shift. But there was a time when I was very positive and thinking this is where we're heading. Right. This is fantastic. But to actually be there it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to be actually setting the tone for other countries as well that are looking to Australia and saying, how did they do it? How are they shifting that? And
the world is watching. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. And you know what? If you haven't had the time to go there, reach out to SAPN and ask to go through and have a look at their innovation centre, because some of the work that they're doing on flexible exports and transitioning the energy grid here in South Australia, it's just incredible. They're doing such a great job there and are really setting the tone for how a DNSP can lead the way in innovation for the energy transition. They're doing a great job.
Yeah, massive shout out to SAPN. We've got the best DNSP. I will not be taking questions.
Well, they've been leading the pack for a long time in terms of lots of the flexible exports and all the bringing in some of these technical changes or mandating some of those technical changes before it was cool to do so. And now, because of course, South Australia, I think it was 10 years ago or more, they had the highest rooftop penetration of solar in the world. So then they experienced...
I think we're near 2/3 or something
so
now.
South Australia were the first to start experiencing that once you get to that saturation point and balance in the grid. And so they really did lead the way, and they still are to a degree. As others, although WA is trying to leapfrog them and to go to the newest CSIP protocols out there before we're crossing fingers that it goes well.
That's good. We're starting to see other states giving different VPP trial programs a go. Queensland is giving a pilot program a go. We've got New South Wales, of course, with their PDRS program. That's quite similar to the REPS program there as well. We hope that something will kick off in Victoria to help with their attachment rates as well, but nothing's on the cards yet.
If we can just get uniformity across all the states for technical requirements,
Yes.
and that's something that...
It's not possible.
It should
simply
be
not
possible across networks and states.
I'm right there with you.
Because for OEMs, it costs a fortune and it's very hard to jump through all the hoops, and all national companies to jump through all the hoops. And Merrily, you could appreciate this, the amount of compliance people that you would need to follow the PDRS and understand it and comply with it, and the VEU and reps, and apart from the bare bones requirements of the certificate schemes and all the stuff you're operating in, when you have different requirements in each of the states and different regulators and different bodies, the cost to businesses operating across different states is enormous.
Yeah, it is. It's phenomenal, actually. But we do have a bit of a superstar team, our quality assurance team. They keep us all honest and act as an island within the business, our own little individual compliance police team. And they're fantastic. They're across everything. But when we first started doing New South Wales work, we were amazed at how much customers wanted to walk it through with us on the phone. So 80% of the applications that we had come in, the customer wanted to talk to someone on the phone. And it didn't matter what portals we had established, what kind of video tutorials we had. Those customers wanted to talk to people, and it was an
busy Sydney people too. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was an average of about 28 minutes per dealing per customer application rate, and we were spending just as much on hand holding, because remember, it's bring your own battery. So every mum and dad that's in there doing an application, it's their first time every time. So you can't build muscle memory. It's not like going through the trades where they've done it a couple of times and it starts to get faster and quicker and more efficient. When you're dealing with the PDRS, it is people doing it for the first time every time. And they want to talk to people about it. They want to talk about their VPP. They want to talk about the application process. It is not easy. There is multiple points of evidence that need to be provided through that process. And we had to double our team size just to handle a single scheme because of the amount of compliance and customer service demand that was there. We've gotten quite fast at it now, and we've got a good rhythm in place, but it's taken 18 months to get to that.
Well,
point.
how much room is there for AI agents in that sort of case? So I'm going to use the case of a solar installer retailer, let's say NRG, Jess. I'm going to hazard a guess that
They're trying to make an AI of my voice. I'm fighting against it.
I'm going to hazard a guess that probably your largest volume of tech support calls is when existing customers change their modem or change their password, and they need to reconnect to the new network. Now that clogs up. You speak to the OEMs, you speak to retailers, installers, that clogs up a huge amount of bandwidth in just talking people through how to reconnect their inverter or their battery to the new modem. Now, it sounds quite similar, Merrily, that you're not just having to explain this as a process of how to do it, but you have to, it's a different communication with a tradie hey, mate, you need to go into the settings, click this. Okay, if you have any problems, I'll email the guide as well. That's it. For an end customer, you actually have to be there with them and, all right, click to the next page or whatever the step is, and to talk them through.
On the left-hand side, in the right-hand corner, the button color is blue.
No, but I can only see a red button. Well, press the red button then.
You're colorblind. Oh no.
Yeah.
Look, I think that AI has played a big role for us over the last 12 months. We've actually had our great dev team that's gone through all of the processes that we practice, from QA to customer service to the customer-facing portals as well. And the way that we've woven AI through our practices is more tools for our team to make their interactions much faster. So, for example, if a customer is asking a question, that question's automatically going through the bot and they're getting the information rather than having to search through the different sections of our website or through the briefing packs to try and find the answer, and the customer's sitting on the phone, it's springing up for them almost straight away. We use AI in lifting information from evidence packs. So when a customer uploads a document, it's actually taking the information directly from that document to populate fields rather than that customer also having to manually enter fields for them. So rather than replacing staff, it's actually become tools for our staff so that they're more productive and more efficient with the time that they're delivering, and also not doing the monotonous work. They can use their brain to actually troubleshoot and be in there when we actually need a hands-on approach to things. A lot of the other interactions, we have more video tutorials for customers. We've got a visual team here that create animations and help walk people through what they need to do, a checklist at the beginning to say, this is all the stuff you're going to have on hand, and if you upload it all in one go, it's going to lift that information and pre-populate half the fields for you. So we're still early on our AI journey and our automation journey there, but it's definitely proven to us that we can't replace the people, nor do we want to. That's part of what makes our team that special mix of what we offer to people, is that they're always talking to a local and they're always talking to someone rather than a bot. But a lot of the other things like evidence gathering and the QA practices, we're able to get a lot of that automated, and a lot of the error messages coming through where our team are able to use their time really well. And drill in on different aspects so that they can get faster and more efficient at processing different things.
I think it's pretty incredible the way that, like, you have to talk differently to different people. And, you know, you get the full spectrum with end users, right? You get your retired engineers, and you get your, like, young mums, and you get your sort of older, like, middle-aged, all sorts, right? You get every single type of demographic and every single type of interest in understanding, let alone baseline understanding. And then you've extended that out because you're also talking to tradies, and you're also talking to retailers and design consultants and, you know, people in that sphere, and you're talking to DNSPs. Who don't you talk to? You talk to retailers, you talk to everyone.
The people we don't like. We don't
Don't get on Merrily's bad side is what I'm hearing.
No, we've got about 50% of the customers that we service would be classified as hardship customers, so those that are on concession cards. So we've actually spent a lot of time and a lot of money investing in translation capabilities, in support services, in face-to-face billing offices. So, and we've even got wheelchair accessible offices here too, so we can overcome a lot of mobility and able access issues that previously we faced in our old offices. And we realized then that we really had to shift the way that we interacted with customers based on the customers that we were servicing the most. So we spent a lot of time and money updating. Even if you go to our website, it's got a little translation function where you can put in ADHD protocols and visual protocols. So if you're colorblind and things like that, you can click different buttons and it changes the website so that it's really easy for you to read and use and interact.
That's so cool.
It's been a fantastic tool for us to use because it's overcome a lot of barriers for people to interact with us. And it's been able to expand that network so much more. But again, our customer service team are amazing here. The fact that they're able to switch hats depending on who's calling at different times and being able to pick up on so many different streams of work that we do here based on the state, based on the product, based on the different services and the different rules in each state, they're superstars.
What a great use case, though.
Merrily, I have a question for you, and we're almost out of time, Luke, but I have a question for you, Merrily. Why Mack Trade? I see you're the founder. Where was your head at, and why did you go, yeah, Mack Trade, that's us?
It was never the name, and honestly, it was never supposed to be this big. It was a sketch of it was
Opportunity knocked, off you went.
No, so Mack is my initials, and it started just as Mack Trust. That was the creativity that sits behind Mack was Mack Incorporated. And I started out just as a sole trader doing consulting work. And over time, we grew and the team grew, and obviously the name had to change. In 2020, one of our biggest clients who had actually backed me from the beginning saying, you've got to go out and do this, decided to say, I'm going to hang up my boots and do want to buy the business. He ran a big trades company in South Australia called Trade Services SA. And he'd been running that for a long time and was ready to retire. He had an amazing team and a really good business. It just made sense to take the next step to scale up. You mentioned about scaling up before. We had a small team then in Victoria, and it just seemed like the next natural step to bring energy and energy programs into a trades environment and show what a good job looks like. So when we brought the two businesses together and ran the two together, it became Mack Trade Services then. About 2 years later, we acquired all of the engineering and hardware department of Zen Energy.
Because they were based down at Tonsley.
Yeah, and then they moved to the Rose Park office, and then we moved to Rose Park to be in the same building, and all of their engineers joined our team so we could do the large solar and battery projects then and diversify a little bit. And it was another string to the bow then. So the team here, we've probably got about 56 on the team now and about 1,200 tradies in the network now. But it was never supposed to be this big. This wasn't a dream from 10 years ago. This was...
You tripped and fell like the rest of it.
White knuckle rides for most of it. But the reason that we keep getting bigger and stronger is because we've just got this awesome team and we're always really open to ideas. We're really a collaborative group and say, hey, let's give it a go. Well, why don't we try that? Sure, let's give it a crack. And if it fails, we learnt. Let's try this and let's give the next thing a go. And we've got a lot of energy nerds here, so we're always looking at the horizon saying, what's next, what's coming down the pike, and let's get ready for that before it's actually a thing. Same with virtual power plants. We're the first to give that a go, saying, well, it makes sense. That's going to be a really big thing in 2 years, so let's start building it now. And it did. It doesn't always pay off, but we've got a team that are really innovative here, and we all actually really like working together, and I think that makes a difference.
Great story.
And like Nige said, the world is watching us too, with VPPs, with all the stuff that we're doing in the energy transition. We are going to have to wrap up shortly. Normally we just go around and get last thoughts. I just noticed, Nige, you're still here. You made the cut. You're meant to drop out half an hour ago.
Yeah, and I spilled my drink on my computer in the middle of the show as well.
That's
So
what
my
happened.
computer's up, my laptop's upside down, there's shit everywhere.
It's a shambles.
Miracle. I'm still here for multiple reasons. It's a
That's your
shambles.
first warning.
All right, last thoughts, Nige?
Look, despite what Tim Forsey would say, I'm just going to shout out to my grandkids who came to visit over the Australia Day weekend. There is nothing better than putting your grandkids on the chain of an ocean pool in Sydney with 4 metre swell, smashing them into a pool, with the major concern being if they get washed out of the pool, they'll get eaten by a shark. Most
I was
Australians.
going to say, I've got this mental image. Remember Free Willy? So they're on the chain and there's a bull shark. Never mind. It's been crazy what's been happening there. I know Nige, you and Claire are very much about the beach and going there. So, but you did mention Tim Forsey, Nige. What's your comments there?
Look, a huge respect to Tim and what he's achieved and done. Look, I think you've got to be true to your roots. And this is a conversational show. It's what's got us to where we are. It's why we have great sponsors on the show, because we want to have conversations about all these kinds of things. And there's lots of other shows that are more formal and more structured and, focus on guests or dive into topic. I don't think that's us. There's always room for improvement, but and big respect to Tim, but I think, this is a chat.
And also the demographic is really industry. It's not so much. Anyway, we have lots of listeners who aren't in the industry, but majority are. All right, Jess, last thoughts.
My last thoughts are just, I know I get on this high horse every now and again, but I don't know about other people. I'm certainly starting to feel the drudge of having to do quite a lot of, like you said earlier, Luke, doing like 5 days worth of work in 4, but then also, you've got like 30 more leads than you normally have in a week, 3 weeks in a row. Like, that kind of thing starts to build up. And I just want everyone to take a breath and check on the people around you. We recently had one of the members of our team had some health issues, and it was pretty incredible to see how our team could gather around him and make sure he had the time he needed, and tell him, no, do not come into work, that kind of thing. I'm actually a bit emotional about that, but all of this to say, I think having good people around you and checking in on each other is exactly what people need to do, and it's hard to remember that when you have 50 things on your to-do list. So yes, if I'm the push, then please take it.
Well said, Jess. Well said. And Merrily Hunter from Mack Trade Services. Now we know it's based off your initials. Thanks for coming on. It's been a great chat.
Last thoughts, actually building on what Nige and Jess has said, is a problem shared is a problem solved. We talked a little bit before at the beginning about someone in the chat that had asked about how to scale his business and had now built a network from that. Jess talking about how your team rallies around and checking in on others. We had a problem that we needed to solve earlier in this week, and rather than me trying to sit down and solve it myself, which a lot of us business owners do, trying to think that we've got to come up with the solutions for everybody else because we always have to be the problem solver. What we've always had a lot of success with is sharing the problem out, because the lived experience of everybody else is so different and everybody approaches a problem in a different way, and it shares the load, but it also gives you a really robust solution when you do open up the doors, be vulnerable and have those chats. So if there is something bothering you and a problem that you can't actually seem to find a resolution on and you're spinning around in your head on it, talk it out loud and share it with your team and listen to their suggestions on how you might be able to solve it, because then we all own it and you can all solve it together.
I'm just looking at my whole diary now.
No, mate, it's Friday afternoon. You got to close the diary. Shut it up.
All right. Well, thanks again, Merrily, for coming on, and thanks to our sponsors, GoodWe. Really appreciate your support. And also, as I said, some good feedback about their all-in-one ESA solution. And also, I was pretty stoked and got some feedback from family and friends mostly, well, industry friends, of course, when Alex Carey, the Australian batsman wicketkeeper, turned up as an ad on our podcast. So I think that's really cool. And and we're looking forward also, Nige, is it May, the Smart Energy Conference is coming up?
May 6 and 7.
May 6 and 7.
Oh, and you've got some road shows a bit sooner, Nige, and some round tables.
Road shows in March. We've got events. Yeah. The Power Circle. Power Circle.
Power Circle.
So we'll have some more details in the coming episodes. But thank you again for listening, watching, however you consume this program. Please feel free to give us feedback, whether it's on Facebook groups or directly. You can get hold of us. We always appreciate advice. And have a good one. We'll catch you next time.